another installation, another installment, another episode of Win with Glenn, where we've been talking about the past installations, where we've been talking about indicators and things that you need to know to cease operations. And we're going to continue that conversation because it's been so energetic, Jim, and informative. I mean, even as I speak,
Painful to remember some of this stuff.
How come nobody told me this?
Right.
It's like they shoot horses, don't they? Shoot me.
Right.
Welcome to the Win with Glenn video podcast, where Glenn Henderson and special guests will give you the tips, insight, and tools you need to grow, develop your business and career. Go with us as we dive into the best practices and rock-solid principles that will elevate you and bring proven success. Now, here's Glenn Henderson.
When you were talking earlier, I was thinking about when our organization was really growing, and I'm, going around the world talking, giving speeches, and being something, and our financial advisor, who was a good friend, yours too, I knew I was always in trouble. He'd say, "Let's meet for breakfast," right?
Yes.
And so and we weren't meeting to talk about money. We were meeting to talk about me. And we sat down, ordered some pancakes, and
The old IHOP.
And he said, "Now listen, I need to talk to you about some things." And I knew by the look on his face that my wife had called his wife, who then called him.
There's another indicator.
Then called me. We need a meeting. And so he begins to explain to me, I missed 5 of my daughter's birthday parties in a row. 5 years in a row, I was out of the country or out of pocket with a client on her birthday. And this was not acceptable. I had missed anniversary twice. Now, I made it up to her,
Right.
But it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. And so he called me on the carpet. We're eating pancakes, and he's eating, and I'm just listening about the 4 or 5 things that are indicating that this organization that I thought it was wonderful is going downhill,
Right.
because my personal life is going to be damaged. Now, it was a very unpleasant conversation. I'll say one last thing. If he hadn't been such a close friend, well, I even felt like he was getting into my own business. He's getting a little too personal with me.
He had a way to do that.
But
That's that advisory thing.
But I invited him to be in that space in my life. I gave him permission to tell me the truth, and that's what he was doing.
What you needed to hear, not
What
what
I
you
needed
wanted
to hear.
And it frequently.
And I was upset. At first I was
Absolutely.
angry, and then I was like,
And
okay.
people need to understand that. That's right.
I'm not saying,
It's not
oh, yes.
pleasant.
I was sitting there going, oh, yes, you're my buddy, and thank you for telling me. No. I did not want to hear a word coming out of his mouth. I wanted to get up and leave and go, pout or be angry or whatever. But the truth is, he probably saved my marriage. He probably saved the business, because I was just wearing myself out. My family was upset. So that's kind of what we're talking about.
Phil, I'm not trying to be philosophical, but even as I listen to you, I'm reminded that likely and probably, and this could be true, and this maybe is more in your wheelhouse than mine, but the news that has been life-changing to me, that I needed to hear most always, was never pleasant.
Never.
Now it would
Once in a while, but-
it would have great results.
Yes.
But when a doctor tells you that you need to make this change, you usually, it's not.
Right.
You don't receive. I'm just saying you don't receive it pleasantly. When the Internal Revenue Service told me, Glenn, and my accountant said, you don't know what your numbers are. That wasn't good news, but it's what I needed to hear. Yeah. When my customer told me, Glenn, you guys, your service is not up to par. I didn't want to hear that. It didn't feel good, but that's what I needed to hear. Less I wasn't going to make those corrections.
If you don't have advisors, if you don't have people that tell you the truth, you are going to experience an enormous failure.
And that's why we talked about having that team together, and part of that team, they're going to be part, hopefully, of those indicators. Yeah. The other thing that I've noticed too, another indicator that is telling you that you need to cease operations, is when you can't sleep and you don't want to be awake.
Either what, both.
Both. This is a pretty bad day. I can't. I can't sleep and I don't want to be up. And listen, now I know that sounds funny. I know that sounds funny, but
pressure of business can
you're
do it.
stirring up in the middle of the night. You can't get good rest. The hours are short, and you don't want to be awake to see what everything is going on. And so I'm trying to if you find yourself in that state, you need to cease operations, and that's going to bring. Okay, so now that we've set up these 4, 5, or 6 indicators that's telling me, listen, I need to cease.
All right.
Let's talk about
not
just
working.
briefly. Yeah. What are some of the? Well, I'm going to call them exit strategies. So let's talk
Okay.
about some of the practical things. Listen, I need to stop
Mm-hmm.
operations, and they're for good reasons. And notice one thing that we didn't talk about is I'm not making money, because see, not making money will manifest into these things. So so I don't even need to talk. I don't need to say, well, if you're not making money, you need to get out of business. And I'll tell somebody another secret. Amazon, which now is either the number 1 and number 2 global business in the world. If you go back and look, their first many years of business, they lost money. I didn't
year.
even know how you could lose that much money.
Every
They were
year.
losing hundreds of millions of dollars.
True.
So while I'm not encouraging people to lose money, loss of having red ink is not a sole indicator, because if you plan properly
Right.
and
And
your
they did.
P&L,
Yeah.
your P&L is going to say, listen, we're not going to make money for the first 3 years. We're going to lose money. And so because of that, I got a war chest out there. I have reserves. And here's and that's a very well thought out plan. And if you know that you're going to, I'm hoping people getting this. If you know that year 1, I'm going to lose 10,000, 100,000. Year 2, it's not that I'm planning to lose. I'm projecting that there's going to be a loss based upon this and all these other
business
things.
model
And we're going to talk about growing fast too. But so now that I know. Well, let me talk about growing fast, and then we'll talk about. I got 3 topics here. I want the team also and our people, our audience, to know another indicator that's telling you to cease operations that will cause you the blood pressure and all this stuff to go up is too much business.
That's right.
What ran me out of business the first year, it was too much business. And it was the very thing that everybody wanted, Jim. Oh, I'm going to start a business. And man, we just going to grow. We're going to grow like, here's a great term. We got to grow, well, we say gangbusters, but usually the only thing I know that grows fast is what? A weed.
Weeds.
So we're going to grow.
I don't know how many businesses that our organization has dealt with to help that went out of business because of business.
Right. And
They were so successful. They were overwhelmed. They couldn't ramp up. They couldn't. I know that's in another session.
well, but that's an indicator.
Couldn't ramp up. So the pressure of that, and not wanting, the ego of not wanting to turn
That's right.
away customers, not wanting to say no. Yes, we have to say yes, because again, the money is an indicator. Yes, we want you to be successful. That's the only reason we're doing this here. It's why we're here, is to help you. We want you to be successful financially. However, finance is not the only indicator. And sometimes, like you said, you're going to lose business, but you're going to lose in the short term, but you're going to win in the long term.
Well, a great indicator, and you just mentioned it to me or reminded me of it. I have this other saying that no reputation is better than a bad reputation. And so if you find yourself with you're just wrecking. I mean, people don't like doing business with
You're
you,
getting angry and
and
frustrated.
only because there's just so much business. I remember a scenario where we got exactly what we want, but I'm gonna do this in reverse. I remember a scenario where you remember the blue light sales that Walmart and some of these
Kmart.
other, not everybody's feeling that.
Right.
And so when you just think about it, you got a person that run they're single mother, a single father, maybe they're married, they got some stress or whatever may be going on in their lives. And now they go to a store, and it could be your store, they're behind a cash register, they're at the front door, and now they're there. They're working for you. And you're in the back, you run the business, you say, man, this is gonna be fantastic. I'm gonna have thousands of people come, but they aren't feeling it. And so they're saying, I don't want to see all these customers, all these people. They're not. I tried to tell people my logistics business. I couldn't believe it. They said, we got all these boxes. I said, boxes is freight, that's revenue. And they said, well, I don't want all these boxes. I said, that's revenue.
That's money. That's money.
And so people aren't feeling that. And then what happens, because they aren't feeling it, then it causes you to have poor service, poor product deliveries, et cetera. That's
Customers
going
a
on.
problem.
And now all of a sudden, all of this business has become a problem.
Yeah.
And now you have a bad reputation, and then you're trying to stay in the business, and the business is telling you that you don't have the right process, you don't have the right capacity. Now this has nothing, you're feeling great.
Yeah.
You know, life is
You may be
good.
making money.
Life is good. I'm enjoying everything, but there's an indicator. There's something out there saying that you aren't ready for this.
Something's wrong, and it will catch up with you.
Right. Well, and people really need to take a look at that. That there's occasions and times when your business is telling you that this is another, it's not a curse word, but term. You need to cut back. Right. You need to, nobody ever talks about, you need to slow the train down, because entrepreneurs invariably always have the mindset, grow, fast, more.
Exactly.
Because it's usually two things that entrepreneur never have enough of, and it's most two things they always need, and that's time and money. I never have enough time, I never have enough money, and there's never enough time and never enough money.
One of my clients out west once coined something with me that I hadn't thought about, and he was about to go out of business. My wife and I, it's out in Washington. They invited us over to their house to basically tell us as the last thing that they're going out of business. And they had a great business. It wasn't like, it was great. It was making money. It was doing all this, destroying their marriage. They had no time for anything. The clients were starting to complain and so on. So it's a whole scenario. So they invited us over. We were in town. They invited us over to tell us this. And so in the conversation over dinner, I asked, some questions, and the wife said, all he does is chase money. He's chasing dollars. Every morning he gets up, he's chasing this, he's chasing that. It's like he's running around all the time chasing a dollar, trying to get that next dollar. And so this whole business, which was profitable, turned out to be, we were able to save the business. It's hugely successful in terms of finances, right? Even to this day, they live on a yacht off the coast of, but she said this chasing this dollar all the time is killing us.
Yeah, I think it was Rockefeller's or Kennedy when they said, when they had so much money, they said, how much is enough? And they said, just a little more.
Just a little more.
Just a little more. I knew that this is such an important topic, and we've spent now 3 segments, but I don't want to shortchange my audience, Jim, so I'm going to ask you to come with the 4th, and we're going to talk about the exit strategies, things that you can do now that the indicators are telling you that you need to cease. I want to give you the practical, rock-solid principles of what you can actually do to exit properly out of business and save image, face, reputation. Win with Glenn. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for the Win with Glenn video podcast. Stay connected by following and subscribing to this podcast on these platforms. Join us every week as Glenn and special guests give you the tools you need to grow and have a successful business or career.